Well, the big news today was the fact that Shedeur Sanders suffered an oblique injury in early drills. He was shut down for the rest of practice.
Browns were of the mind, proved to me that you can do it. But he proved in one game that he could do it, so much so that they now have to give him the chance.
Now, because what Kevin Stefanski did is actually par for the course. I know a lot of fans don't want to hear it. I know a lot of fans don't know about it, but I'm going to take y'all inside this locker room.
Today, the story shakes both Cleveland and the NFL at its core. The Browns, yes, those Browns have just been accused of one of the most bizarre, suspicious, and calculated moves you'll hear all season. Reports say Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback rookie turning heads across the country, is suffering from an oblique injury. The team says it's serious enough to keep him out of action, but insiders, they're calling this injury report nothing more than smoke and mirrors, a sideline trick to keep him buried in the depth chart. So is this football strategy or football sabotage? Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you is the kind of drama that makes the NFL look less like professional sports and more like a late-night political thriller. If you love football, if you love the underdog, and if you especially love Shedeur Sanders, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and if your loyalty is 100% locked in, drop SS 100% down in the comments right now so the whole league knows where you stand.
And the Los Angeles Rams call the Browns so I can be their third-string quarterback. As odd as that sounds, because that's right. The Rams story right now is Matt Stafford's got a bad back, and that is really concerning. And their backup quarterback, while a fine backup quarterback.
Shedeur, the official story. Here's the team version. Early drills before the latest preseason matchup, Shedeur felt discomfort in his oblique. Medical staff checks him, word filters through the Browns' official channels, and within hours, bam, he's sidelined for the rest of practice and questionable for the next game. Coach Kevin Stefanski says everyone on the roster is being developed, no QB favorites, no bias. Sounds clean, right? Safe, responsible coaching? Yeah, about that. The unofficial version from insiders. Multiple sources close to Shedeur are speaking up and not whispering, shouting. According to them, the so-called injury is nothing more than mild soreness, the type of soreness he had literally just played through in the previous game without missing a single beat. No grimace, no limp, no tent visit, no keep him out orders then. But suddenly, right when the Cleveland QB competition is heating up, that soreness becomes an injury. Suspicion mounts. Follow the timing here, because when the puzzle pieces line up, it's hard not to see a bigger picture. Just days before this injury story broke, Stefanski had already raised eyebrows by rolling out a depth chart that flat out disrespected the work Shedeur had put on the field. This wasn't opinion, it was numbers, tape, and performance. Shedeur had just delivered arguably the best QB performance of the entire Browns preseason. Yet, when the names were stacked in order, there he was, sitting at QB4. Fourth, behind two quarterbacks with injuries of their own, Dillon and Pickett. That's not just unusual, that's suspicious, bordering on insulting. The depth chart twist. Think about how rare that is in the NFL. You have an available, healthy QB outperforming the rest, yet you list him behind two guys not physically able to practice or play. When that happened, fans, analysts, and anyone who can read a box score started asking, what is really going on in Cleveland? And then cue the injury report. Why this feels like strategy, not safety. The Cleveland Browns aren't just randomly sitting someone out. The whispers now say this was calculated, maybe even desperate. Stefanski, facing intense public pressure to give Shedeur first-team reps, might be working the board like a chess master who'd rather stall the game than risk losing his control piece. The Browns' message? We're protecting our player. The reality many are seeing? They're protecting their plan, which does not involve Shedeur Sanders starting anytime soon. The commentary that blew it open. After Shedeur's last big performance, ESPN's Dan Orlovsky, no stranger to calling out questionable coaching decisions, went live on air and said it out loud. He called for Stefanski to stop hiding behind vague competition talk and start giving Shedeur starter reps. Period. Prove him incapable on the field or admit you've got another agenda. Orlovsky's exact point was sharp. If you're going to tell the NFL world that Shedeur can't handle starter duties, then you need proof. And so far, that proof doesn't exist. Every snap he's taken has leaned the opposite direction. Confident, accurate, and resilient under real pressure. The timing game. But before those comments could build even more momentum, boom, the injury news dropped. Now, Shedeur wasn't just the QB they weren't playing, he was the QB they couldn't play. A convenient wall to deflect every follow-up question. Oh, Shedeur's not starting? Well, he's injured. Next question. You see where this feels choreographed. The hardcore hardcore dog pound fans aren't buying it. The highlight reels don't lie, the preseason stats don't lie, and the eye test doesn't lie. Shedeur was making a case to climb that depth chart fast. So fast that Browns Twitter erupted when the latest game day roster locked him out again. By the next morning, hashtags calling for Shedeur to be traded were trending. Transfer talks leak. And then came journalist Mick Wright's report, one that sent shivers through Cleveland's front office. According to Wright, Shedeur himself privately discussed the possibility of asking for a transfer if this treatment continued. The leading destination? The Los Angeles Rams. Why the Rams? Simple. A stable coaching staff, no QB controversy headlines, and a near-perfect environment to grow behind veteran Matthew Stafford. That's not to say Stafford's on the way out tomorrow, but the Rams are looking at the long view, and the thought of a hungry, untapped talent like Shedeur in their development pipeline, that's a real option. The Rams' what-if scenario. For LA, it's practically a no-risk, high-reward move. Bring Shedeur in, ease him into the role, no citywide debate about starting over Stafford until the time is right. For the Browns, the math is even colder. You spent a 5th-round pick on him. If you can flip him for a 4th in a trade, that's a win by pure draft capital logic, even if it's a loss in every other sense. Browns ownership gets involved. Here's where things twist again. Sources say Browns owner Jimmy Haslam isn't on board with letting Shedeur walk. He's seen the fan reaction, he's felt the buzz. From a business perspective alone, Shedeur Sanders is good for Cleveland. Jersey sales, ticket hype, ratings during preseason, and Haslam, who's been known to care about public sentiment, reportedly wants Stefanski to keep him right where he is. Which means now, instead of Shedeur versus depth chart or Shedeur versus media narrative, it's Shedeur versus head coach and an owner who's playing chess with that coach's decisions. Mounting pressure. Imagine the position Stefanski's in. The fans are watching his every move. The analysts are questioning every excuse. The owner's breathing down his neck to keep a young QB around. And the other QBs on the roster aren't exactly locking up the starting role in his absence. So what's the way out? Keep up the injury storyline until the preseason ends, pray the heat dies down, or just stick to his guns and risk losing both the player and the locker room's trust? Performance factor. Let's not forget the actual on-field facts that sparked all of this. Shedeur's preseason performances have been bold, disciplined, and creative. His decision-making under defensive pressure is already ahead of many rookies. He's shown he can read pro-level coverages, thread passes through tight coverage, and execute drives without costly giveaways. And that makes this bench him because he's sore narrative even harder to swallow. One of the most telling moments in this whole saga came when a commentator, sounding more like an old-school coach than a media analyst, put it plainly. Your job as a coach is to put players in positions where they can succeed. Stop telling me what they can't do. Find out what they can do. It's classic football wisdom, and it cuts straight to the point in Cleveland. Stop inventing reasons not to trust Shedeur Sanders. Give him the stakes, give him the snaps, and let the results speak, because so far, the results are speaking loudly. Still, trade talk isn't going anywhere. Every time Shedeur stays out of practice or sits during a preseason matchup, reporters circle back to those Rams rumors. In some twisted way, this benefits the Rams. Their name stays in the news, and it corners Cleveland, who now look like they're actively diminishing an asset's value by keeping him off film. The legacy question. For Stefanski, the deeper danger isn't just dropping a few preseason games or annoying a fan base. This is the NFL. Reputations last, and if the emerging league-wide perception becomes that he stifles young talent to cling to preconceived plans, that's the type of narrative that can stick to a coach for years and follow him into every locker room he leads. So behind the polite press conference statements and shoulder shrug injury updates, there's a power struggle. Player versus coach, coach versus owner, narrative versus scoreboard. And every day that Shedeur stands on the sideline in a baseball cap instead of a helmet, the tension grows. Cleveland's not an easy sports city. It's passionate, loyal, and loud. Fans here will show up through blizzards, heartbreak seasons, and Monday disasters. But pull a stunt that looks like you're holding back one of the most electric prospects they've seen since Baker's rookie spark, and the boos will come faster than a blitz off the edge. Already, the message boards are surging. Let him play or let him go. The preseason clock is ticking. The Browns can reverse course, declare Shedeur recovered, and give him meaningful reps, which could either silence the critics or make the case for him even stronger. Continue the injury narrative and risk alienating Shedeur, the locker room, and a big chunk of the fan base. Trade him while the hype is still alive, effectively admitting this was never about his talent, but rather about fitting a plan that never included him. One more angle: money. Yes, the NFL is about passion, history, and pride, but don't ignore the economics. A quarterback who stirs this kind of conversation can move merchandise and dominate local headlines even in August. Cutting that short, that has real dollar signs attached, and trust me, owners keep count. Haslam's protective stance might not be just about football ambition. It might be about the brand power Shedeur delivers. So here we are, just weeks from regular season kickoff, and the Browns QB storyline, instead of being about readiness for battle, is about questionable injuries, suspicious depth charts, and potential trades. Is Shedeur Sanders the victim of overmanaged roster politics? Is Kevin Stefanski just stubbornly committed to his original QBs? Or is this one of those odd NFL sagas where the truth is 3 layers deep and nobody on the inside is willing to tell the whole story until years later? One truth is hard to deny: Shedeur Sanders has already proven he belongs in the game, and every week he's not, this story only gets bigger. So what do you think? Is this injury real or pure tactical smoke? Is Shedeur a future Cleveland star being smothered before he shines, or should he pack up and head to LA for a fresh start with the Rams? Light it up in the comments with your verdict. Say where you stand, and remember, if you've got Shedeur's back, drop SS 100% so this football soap opera knows exactly which side you're on. Until next time, keep your eyes wide and your Sundays free, because in Cleveland right now, nothing is as simple as it seems.